Hello everyone and welcome to Crypto Red, your go-to channel for crypto news. Today's episode covers several major topics. We'll discuss the recent trade deal between the US and the European Union, the growing wave of billionaires recommending crypto, and the increasing number of companies accumulating cryptocurrencies like Solana, SUI, ETHEREUM, and TRON. The pace is clearly accelerating. Now about the trade deal, although it was announced a few days ago, I hadn't had a chance to fully process it. The United States and the European Union have reached a trade agreement which frankly favors the US significantly. A 15% tariff has been imposed by the US on most European goods, excluding certain sectors like aerospace. So good news for Airbus, for example, but overall it's a failure for the European Union. I'm not here to dive into politics, but this illustrates Donald Trump's long-standing trade strategy bearing fruit. While there is still no deal with China, it's less disastrous than expected. He's securing deals that benefit the United States, and we're not seeing a full-blown tariff war between the US and Europe, at least for now. If talks with China don't succeed, we may just stay in the status quo, which would reduce uncertainty. That's likely what the market are reflecting. S&P 500 hitting new highs and crypto markets also holding up well. Let's move on to billionaire Ray Dalio. He recommends allocating 15% of a portfolio to gold and Bitcoin. Or Bitcoin, he mentions both. He owns a bit of Bitcoin but more gold. While he doesn't give an exact breakdown, it's striking to see him putting Bitcoin on par with gold in a portfolio. With the dollar being devaluated and the United States printing massive amounts of money, people are realizing the need for a store of value. Gold has long served that role, but to me, Bitcoin is the new digital gold. One interesting point from Dalio's interview was that people often talk about Bitcoin volatility, but gold also had its up and down. He pointed out that those who bought gold during the inflation crisis of 1980 and held it for 20 years ended up losing 85% of their purchasing power in real dollar terms. So yes, gold is stable over the long term, but it also goes through long stagnant or downward periods, just like Bitcoin, though typically on longer time scale. Finally, an important update I didn't mention earlier. Linea. We now have much more information about this layer 2 blockchain. Linea has been around for a while and has long hinted about a potential airdrop. Linea is the blockchain developed by Consensus, the same parent company behind MetaMask. It was founded by Joseph Lubin, who also co-founded Ethereum. Interestingly, he's now buying a large amount of ETH through his other company, Sharpling Gaming. What's just been revealed is how Linea's tokenomics will work. The Linea token will allocate 85% of the tokens to the ecosystem, with only 10% reserved for an airdrop, targeted at both users and builders. In the end, those who transacted on Linea may receive around 5 to 7% of the supply, which is frankly quite low and a bit disappointing. That said, one notable aspect is there are no tokens allocated to investors or the team. Only 15% will go to Consensus, and those tokens will be locked for 5 years. The remaining 75% will be used to support the ecosystem through marketing incentives and developing grants. A key concern though is the lack of real utility for the Linea token. There will be no DAO or governance, at least not yet. For now, 20% of the transaction fees which are paid in ETH will be used to burn ETH, helping reduce Ethereum supply and aligning incentives with Ethereum's economic model. The remaining 80% of fees will be used to buy and burn Linea tokens, effectively reducing its circulating supply. This is quite similar to BNB Chain's burn mechanism based on activity. While the token has no real utility at launch, its burn mechanisms are positive. However, governance will be managed initially by a consortium rather than community. This group includes Consensus, Ethereum Name Services, Status, Eigenlayers, and Sharpling Gaming. It's a fairly centralized model, and the team has not used the token launch to decentralize Linea, though they say it may come gradually over time. Their message is we're here for the long run. We want to do things properly and grow slowly. I personally appreciate the ETH burn approach. It gives value back to Ethereum, but the lack of utility for Linea's own token is somehow concerning. For transparency, I did farm the linear airdrop on a few wallets. I didn't do much. I just participated in one campaign in the gaming space, though I even forgot the name of the campaign. I'll let you know if it ends up being worthwhile. The airdrop is expected in September, but no exact date has been confirmed. There was also a very interesting interview by the Big Whale with the head of Linea. Now, let's talk about the massive crypto accumulation by companies, particularly Ethereum. From my conversation with other crypto investors and clients I advise, I've noticed that many individuals are hesitant to buy right now. The general sentiment is, it's too high, I'm waiting for a correction. Some are even taking profits. Meanwhile, institutions are buying aggressively. For example, Bitmain has increased its ETH holding to 625,000 ETH, worth roughly $2.4 billion, about 0.5% of the total ETH supply. The closest competitor, Sharplink Gaming, also made a major move, increasing the holdings to 438,000 ETH. In the past 30 days, both have significantly ramped up their acquisition, with Bitmain adding just today 77,000 ETH and Sharplink 58,000 ETH today. So this accumulation is likely supporting ETH's price, and it's not just Ethereum. Apexi recently raised $500 million to buy SOL tokens, a significant move even if Solana doesn't yet see as much institutional inflow as Ethereum. There's also Mill City Ventures, a new player reportedly about to raise $441 million to acquire SUI tokens. What's striking is that this company wasn't previously crypto-focused, yet it's pivoting aggressively to capitalize on the current market excitement. That's a massive raise and a clear sign that traditional firms are entering crypto at scale. In the press release, we can see that many well-known companies have invested in this project. Pantera Capital, Harrington Capital, the founder of TechCrunch, and many other investors. They're also working in collaboration with the SUI Foundation to carry out this acquisition of SUI tokens. SUI isn't the only one involved in these kinds of schemes. Justin Sun is also continuing efforts to purchase up to $1 billion worth of TRON through his company, TRON Inc. As I've said, practically everyone is getting involved in this crypto acquisition. This strategy has proven effective, especially with MicroStrategy as a prime example. Speaking of MicroStrategy and Bitcoin, let's talk about Marathon. Initially a mining company, they're still a mining company, but they recently shifted the strategy. Instead of using funds solely for mining, they're now raising capital to buy Bitcoin directly. They've just completed the $950 million fundraising round for this purpose. Honestly, it feels like we're getting this kind of announcement every day now. ETF activity is also heating up. I recently discussed Bitcoin and Ethereum's ETF, which are seeing massive inflows. July alone has set new records, especially for Ethereum. Clearly, there's a lot of excitement around crypto at the moment. I understand that buying crypto at all-time high can feel risky. It's intimidating. I'm not advising anyone to buy right now, but I do encourage you to study the current cycle. Ask yourself, where are we in the cycle? Could it still go much higher? Many people are waiting for a correction, and yes, corrections will come. Of course they will. The market can't go up forever. But imagine you sold everything at $120,000 for BTC to take profits, and now you're waiting for a dip to get back in. What if it never comes? What if we never go back to $120,000 and instead we just keep climbing 130, 150, 200, 250, and then the correction brings us down to 150K? You'll still be sitting on the sidelines without having re-entered the market. That's why I always say, think long-term when it comes to crypto. If you start trying to time the market, you're basically turning into a trader. So ask yourself, are you a trader or are you a long-term investor? Personally, I enjoy discussing these topics with the people I mentor. But I know it's difficult and some people need help. If you need help, just ask in the comment and we'll see how to go from there. Now, let's move on to stablecoins. The Plasma blockchain affiliated with Bitfinex has just raised $273 million through a token sale. That's huge. Peter Thiel is one of the investors. Plasma should launch in around 40 days. What's strange is that Bitfinex is now behind two blockchains focused on stablecoins, Plasma and Stable. Plasma is more tied to Bitcoin, while Stable is a full-fledged blockchain in its own right. Both are targeting the stablecoin space, especially USDT, but Stable seems to be more deeply specialized in USDT. It's a bit odd to see two projects from the same ecosystem competing with one another, but considering that Stable is also backed by Bitfinex, Yeah, it's really really strange. There's a huge amount of excitement around stablecoins lately. In previous cycles, nobody ever came asking me about stablecoins, but now even my uncle came and asked me what I think about them. Not to invest, just out of curiosity. Stablecoins are making headlines even in the mainstream media. Speaking of mainstream, PayPal just announced that merchants in the US will soon be able to accept over 100 cryptocurrencies through a solution that automatically converts them to their stablecoin, PYUSD. This would allow anyone to pay with almost any crypto. However, the fees are relatively high, starting at 1% and potentially rising to 1.5%. While that's still lower than typical credit card fees, it's not negligible. As for the NFT market, it's slowly starting to rebound. CryptoPunks have gone back above $200,000, around the 53 ETH. Things are picking up. Although the ranking of the NFTs had shifted, the Bored Ape Yacht Club is no longer number one as it was 2 or 3 years ago. Now we see CryptoPunks in the first place, Pudgy Penguins second, and Bored Ape in third place. There's clearly less activity in the NFT space than before, but the volume is starting to return. Still, the community feels much smaller now. In contrast, meme coins are attracting a much larger audience. They're easier to trade and more accessible than NFTs. That's it for today's Cryptos Update. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you tomorrow for the next update. Bye bye, take care.